Let's go to the phones now. Wildcard line. Get us started. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hey, George. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for holding so long, by the way.
Hey, recently you had a caller who talked about on her caller ID she had all ones.
Yes.
I had a story similar, but not quite the same.
Now, did you have somebody die in the family?
No. Nothing along those lines. I came home one day and I looked at my caller ID and there was a number there with a woman's name I didn't recognize. So I went ahead and checked my messages. And there was a woman who left a message, and she even said, "Hey, John," which is my name, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen you in a while. Would you give me a call? And she left me 2 numbers, which one of them matched a caller ID. I had no idea who this person was. I didn't recognize her voice or anything. So I thought, why not just go ahead and give the call, right? So I called the first number she gave, and I got that, message, this number is no longer in service.
Weird.
Which I thought, which was kind of weird.
She gave you the number, and it's not in service.
Yeah,
so
2
did you
numbers
dial it again, thinking maybe you misdialed it or something?
Yeah, I even checked that. I called back, and I got the same
thing.
Same thing, right. So then I thought, okay, I'll call the second number. This time I did get her, and it was her cell phone number. And I thought, I'm just returning your call.
Did she know who you were?
No, she didn't. At the time, she didn't say, my name is John, blah, blah. And she goes, well, I didn't call anybody today or anything.
How weird.
And as we got to talking, it turns out that she was actually looking for a person named John who had the same last name as me. But that was a coworker of hers. But from like 2 years earlier. And she was going through the phone book, looking up everybody with my first and last name and calling, trying to track this person down, who in the meantime moved to Louisiana. So she made those calls 2 years earlier.
You mean she did not make those calls that day?
Right. And the first number that she gave me was her original home number from the place that she was living at the time she made the calls.
Now that is weird.
Uh-huh.
How do you explain this?
I don't know.
How did she explain it?
She had no clue. I mean, she was just like, I have no idea why you're calling me. I says, well, look, I'm looking at my caller ID. It says I got this call off her cell phone number at such and such time today. I did not call you.
There's some kind of tear in the space-time continuum. Something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bizarre story.
Yeah, I just thought I'd call and share that with you.
All right, appreciate that.
No problem.
Now, that one is strange, isn't it? East of the Rockies, you're up on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Missouri.
How far from St. Louis?
About 210 miles.
So that would put you, if you're east of the 210 miles, puts you west, I bet.
Uh-huh.
You're near Kansas City?
Close.
St. Joe?
No, back this way a little bit.
Cape Girardeau? No, Cape Girardeau's closer.
You know where Polo?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where you are. What's going on?
Well, back in 1993, my girlfriend and I and her boy, she had a boy when I got with her.
Yep.
We went to her grandmother's house and walked in, and I says, hi, Grandma. I talked to her like she was my grandma, But
sure. Well, good for you. That's good, though. I like that.
I says, hi, Grandma. How you doing? I says, was your boyfriend here today? She's like, no.
How old was she, by the way?
Oh, she's probably 80 or so. Her husband had been dead for quite a few years.
Uh-huh.
And I told her, I said, well, I smell Old Spice.
Old Spice?
Yeah, I could smell it. As soon as I walked in the door, it smelled like Old Spice.
Yeah.
She's like, well, there hasn't been nobody here all day. And I told her, I said, well, I can smell Old Spice. And she's like, well, I'm telling you, there's been nobody here today but you guys. So when we were leaving, she was telling me before we left that her husband used to wear Old Spice all the time.
Uh-huh.
And as I was leaving, I said something sarcastic. I don't remember exactly what it was that I said.
Because that's your sense of humor, isn't it?
Right.
Yep.
And as soon as I stepped down and to go into the little waiting area there, her main door slammed behind me. And the little boy and my girlfriend was already out the door, and I was the last one out the door, and the door slammed on me. And Grandma was in the other room.
Guess who it was?
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy with the Old Spice.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat. Hey, thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it. Next up, let's go to our devil hotline. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hello, George.
Yes, sir. Hi.
Hi, my name's Mike. How are you?
Fine, Mike. Where are you calling from, sir?
Lynn, Mass.
Okay.
Next to Salem.
You got... Uh-oh.
City of Witches.
You got it.
I got a little story for you.
Okay, Mike.
First, I might say that I was very religious when I was a youngster. Altar boy, uncle a priest, 3 aunts that were nuns.
I picked up the word "was" in that sentence.
Well, meaning that I'm in my 50s now.
Okay.
Still very religious.
Still religious. Okay.
Got away but came back.
Yeah.
The story that I had, George, was along the lines of the devil, something I'm not really proud to talk about or walk around with 666. I don't do that. But just the nature of your show, I felt compelled to give you a call.
Okay.
I had this dream back when I was 8 or 9, so that's back in, say, the 60s. And I'm 53 now. This dream I had, I lived in a particular house, say house number 29. I used to shovel a house 27 out for the people that lived there. Matter of fact, they were celebrities on TV. And they used to get away from New York by coming to Lynn. But anyways, this particular day, this dream, I was walking along the side of that house on the driveway. As I approached the sidewalk, there was a black figure in front of me, back to. In other words, I couldn't see the face, it was the back.
Okay.
Now, I'm at the sidewalk, and I look up the street, which was the next house up where I lived. And at that same point on the sidewalk was a casket, flag draped.
Oh, my.
And
Now, this wasn't an image. It was really there?
well, it was a dream. It was there. If you could say in a dream, sure. And
I mean, did it feel real to you?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said out loud, I said, "Well, who's that?" And the person gave me a name. So I immediately did like a double take to look back up the street again. The casket's gone. There's a witch's hat that's floating now down the sidewalk. And I said, "Well, who's that?" And I was given another name. So I then tapped this person on the back, on their right shoulder with my right finger, if you can picture that. I'm a little boy. I'm 8 or 9.
That's pretty gutsy in a dream, huh?
Huh?
That's pretty gutsy to do, even in a dream.
Well, I was, I guess I didn't know I was in the dream. It just seemed like, you see these things and you say, well, who's that?
Yeah.
And then you go, well, who are you?
Seems like it's a real thing.
It was real, and it's lasted photographic memory ever since. That's why I'm calling you. And I've had 10 or 15 other things that have happened coincidental, but, we won't go into that.
I understand.
This was the first one that ever happened. But I stressed the religion part that was in my life with family, and used to say, like, Mass in my room. My uncle was a priest, and, just, it might be tied into this devil thing. Well, anyways, I tapped this person on the back, and I said, well, who are you? And the person whipped around, whipped open a black cape, and said, I'm the devil, and I'm going to get you.
Oh, my.
Now, here's a clincher. First I woke up gasping.
Yeah, scared to death.
Because I was right in the person's chest. I never saw her face. But here's the clincher, George. How do I, later on in life, end up buying the 2 houses of the names that person gave me?
Now, that's strange.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah.
When did it dawn on you that you had done that?
Done what?
That you bought the house with those names?
Right away.
Did it hit you right away?
Yeah.
And you immediately thought of this dream?
I knew it going forward.
Now, why were you felt drawn to do this?
Well, one of the houses was, as I mentioned, the house next door to where I grew up. And I shoveled that driveway for these celebrities.
Yeah.
Actually, they were TV celebrities.
Local?
Car 54.
Oh, yeah. Fred,
well, it was the captain's wife.
The captain's wife.
Her name was Louise Kirtland.
Okay.
And then her husband was the original divorce court back in the 50s.
Well, that's way back, yeah.
Alex Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
He was a radio personality, wrote books, and
Okay.
so this was their escape house to get away from New York. Believe it or not, to come to Lynn. So they always wanted the driveway shoveled. So I was a little kid that always shoveled it for them, whether there was a storm, where they were coming or not.
Now, during this whole episode, though, I mean,
Yeah.
if this person in your dream was the devil, I don't hear anything evil here. Nothing happened here, did it?
No.
At least not yet. You still own the 2 houses?
Yeah, and something coincidentally happened last year. I was cleaning the gutters on this particular 27 house.
You rent them out? Is that what you do?
That's a 2-family, right?
Yeah.
And the house I live in now is a single family, which was owned by the guy with the hat.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I found out from my neighbor up here that and it's only 8 houses away from the other one, I found that he was an extremely religious man. And I've had opened locked doors, I've had lights come on in rooms. I live alone. A lot of strange stuff, George. But the reason that I bought that house down there was a company in the back that was going to knock it down because they couldn't collect rent. And so I bought it for demolition costs, $5,000.
That's a pretty good deal.
Back in the 70s. So, I mean, yeah, it was something you couldn't refuse. But
Well, why do you think that was the devil in that dream?
he said he was.
You believed him?
Yes.
It's strange. Okay, thanks for sharing it with us. But I don't hear anything evil about it, though, to tell you the truth. First-time caller line, welcome to the show. Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, welcome to the
hi.
program.
Yeah, this is Terry in Chico, California.
Hi, Terry.
Yeah, I wanted to share with you an experience that I had with what I think were angels. They didn't say they're angels, but they made a reference to God. And at any rate, with a little bit of background, I was involved in a pretty terrible car accident. I was rolled over in a Volkswagen convertible at 45 miles an hour. My friend that was with me died in the car accident.
Sorry. And when did this happen?
In, 72, 73, something like that.
30-some years ago. Okay.
Yeah. And I was hospitalized overnight for observation because I had a large laceration and a crease in my head. And, glass and all over.
Oh, yeah.
Great and everything.
Yeah.
At any rate, the very next night, after I was released from the hospital, I was laying on the couch, and I was looking at a lamp, just resting and recuperating, basically. And next thing I know, everything starts to going dark, and I'm basically just with these 3 beings that were bright light and sparkly, and they basically just explained to me that the reason that I survived the car wreck was because there was something important that I was supposed to do later in life.
And did that happen yet?
It's been sort of a search for my destiny, but then again, everybody sort of searches for their destiny, so as far as I know, not, but I have been working on one, I think, pretty remarkable invention, because I'm a real smart guy, as a byproduct.
If you say so yourself, right?
I know. No, I actually was a member of Mensa, so I passed that test.
So what's the invention? Can you tell us?
Yeah, sure. Well, a little bit more background. After I had that experience, a few years afterwards, I sold my car, and I had some jewelry I sold, and I wanted to lead a little bit more of a less wealthy lifestyle.
Yeah, a little more laid back, huh?
What's that?
A little more laid back lifestyle?
Yeah. Right, to see what this destiny is or whatever. And so I bought a bicycle, and I quickly figured out that I'm going to get rained on, and it's not too comfortable, so I tried to figure out a way to cover myself up on a bicycle, so I thought about it, and I thought, well, if I could find some sort of lightweight thing like an airplane, I could surround myself in an airplane fuselage, basically, and mate that up with a bicycle. And so I found a home-built aircraft that somebody was basically giving away because they gave up on the project that they were building and stuff. So from there, I've been after I did that, I thought, well, if it's already an airplane, why not just let it fly? Try and figure out some way to let it fly. And so I've been working on this project for about 15 years or more now, where you can basically go down the road, and then at any time you want to, just speed up a little bit more, about 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, and then you can just take off.
Whoa. You can just, go buzzing down the road. It's like a flying car?
Yeah, exactly, except for if it's too windy, or because it's really lightweight. If it's too windy, or if it's going too fast, you'll start flying, so you got to be careful about the speed and the wind and such. Have you
built a prototype? Have you flown?
Well, I'm just at the stage right now that I'm building one. I've got, of course, the fuselage and wings and stuff together, but I just have to finish a sort of a working model to make sure I get the basic design down, and then just put it together and look for funding to get it on the road.
Interesting.
In production.
You're behind some other people who are trying to build flying cars, but who knows? You might be able to get yours to market too.
You know what? I used to consider myself to be so far ahead of everybody else, but as it turns out, I was looking at this month's Popular Science, and I'm really only a few years ahead. And the military, the government is working on a similar, or is encouraging people to work on a similar kind of thing. But I think they're looking to use it as a war machine, obviously.
There's a guy out there named Paul Moeller who is building his own flying machine.
Yeah. Right. Way too big, too complicated. Even if it does fly, no one's going to be able to afford it.
How much would yours cost?
You know what? Just because of the size, the lightweight and such, I'm anticipating no more than a mid-price car, say $30,000.
And it would the wings wouldn't stick out too far, would it?
Exactly. I made it an 8-foot limit just because that's about what a Hummer is, or a truck.
Yeah. Sounds like the Jetsons all over again.
No, it actually does seem like that.
All right, thanks. Maybe that is your destiny. After all, you never know. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good. Hey, every time I listen to your show, I have something weird happen.
Like what?
Well, a little while ago, I'm a student here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm listening on KNRS.
Yeah.
I'm a student at Weber State University, and I'm a graphic design major and a photography minor. So sometimes my photography minor takes me outside, and I have to go outside, sometimes shoot late at night.
Understand.
And so I listen to your show late at night here, and one time I was out in the middle of nowhere. I was out in rural neighborhoods and driving around some old farms looking for some great night shots, and I go to park my car to take a picture, and I turn it off, and my radio stays on. And it was on your show. I pulled the key out, and you gotta realize I installed my own radio. I install radios.
And so you know what you're doing.
Yeah, sound systems and whatnot.
Yeah.
And my radio stayed on, and I thought that was weird. So I go out and take my shots. My radio's still on. Come back on. I drive around, take a few more shots. My radio still stays on. Well, I get home, park my car, come out the next day. When I parked my car at home at night, my radio shut off. I parked my car the next day, come out my car, and my radio's back on again.
Please don't ask me to explain why we do this to you, but it's a special piece of equipment I installed.
Oh, okay. But it always happens to your show, and then while I was waiting on hold, just barely, I was watching my clock on my radio, and this is a top-of-the-line competition series radio.
Uh-huh.
And it just changed from 142, or 136 to 236 about 5 minutes ago.
Just like that.
Like the time just changed.
It's energy. We're doing that is weird. If you figure it out, let me know.
All right.
All right. Appreciate your call. Wildcard line, you're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's a pleasure to talk to you.
You sound up and chipper. Where are you calling from?
I am calling from Tampa, Florida. I listen on 970 WFLA.
It's a great station, and it's a great town, by the way. I love Tampa.
It is. I'm a hometown girl. Been here my whole life.
Tampa, Clearwater. I used to go down there every year. Haven't been down there for a couple of years, but it's great.
It's hot.
Yeah.
The reason I am calling you tonight, George, is I have a haunted coin.
You have a haunted coin?
I am the owner of a haunted coin.
Now, what makes it haunted?
What makes it haunted? Well, it likes to move around a lot. When I first received it, I kept it in my purse for about a year, and I got a smaller purse. Women do that. But I took the coin out, because it's a large coin. It's an English penny. It's about the size of an American half dollar.
Okay.
I put it in a jewelry box, because it's a family heirloom. Within a day, it was back in my purse without the help of human hands.
Oh, really?
Yes. So that you know, I said, okay, maybe it wants to be with me. So I just left it in there. But it likes to slide around a bit, but that's not even the most interesting thing about it. The interesting part is that it belonged to my granny, who was actually a circus performer and in her youth. And it was passed on to me through the tragic circumstance of her death. She was actually hit by a train. And I hadn't spoken to her in some time. And when I was actually called to identify her body because she didn't have any other family in this state. And I identified her, and they gave me
that must have been kind of gruesome to do.
It was very gruesome, but fortunately they actually just show you a Polaroid. So
okay. Well,
for all those people on TV, that's not what really happens. But they passed on her personal effects because they didn't have anybody else to give them to. So in the personal effects, there was a little tiny junky silver ring, which, you know, was nothing. One earring, because they couldn't find the other earring because her ear had actually been torn off. And the coin. They never actually found her purse. They thought it burned in the wreckage. So I was just blown away to see this coin. I hadn't seen it since I was a little girl because she was always playing with it. She was, like I said, she was a circus performer. And the coin was actually her good luck charm. It was given to her by a magician that she had been in love with when she was a girl. And he was actually killed tragically as well. So
this reminds me of Somewhere in Time. Do you remember that movie? With a great ending. I'm not going to tell you the ending because I'll spoil it for people, but it was with Christopher Reeve. And it was a great movie. The music was great. The whole thing was super, but very close to what's happening to you, believe it or not. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I hadn't spoken to my granny in a long time because we weren't on good terms because of some family situation.
Yeah.
But the coin brings me this awful, just absolutely horrible bad luck. I mean, I have the worst luck of anybody you could ever imagine.
So it's not good luck that you're having with this thing.
No, it's not whatsoever. And I've had so many horrible things happen to me that people, you know, kind of shy away from being close to me because they think, you know, oh boy.
Well, if you threw it off a bridge in Tampa, and you have a lot of causeways there, would it pop up and show up again somewhere?
I'm absolutely positive it would. You know, have you ever seen The Changeling with George C. Scott?
Yes.
And the ball that comes back?
Yep.
I don't think I could live with myself.
No, if that came back, you'd go over the edge.
Well, the odd thing is, it has come back, not through, you know, like a paranormal thing, but I actually auctioned it off on eBay, actually. Because
and did you send it to somebody?
I did. I sent it to a woman who bought it in California. She kept it for less than a month. She sends me an email. She's like, you got to take this thing back. She's like, it's absolutely just ruining my life. It drove her crazy.
Oh, my God.
She put it away. It would pop up in the pocket of her pants, on the kitchen counter. It was driving her absolutely insane, so she returned it.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, right now I have it, and I want to get rid of it, but I'm afraid to because I feel like, I don't know.
You don't want any harm to come to somebody else.
Right, exactly. And somebody told me that I should bury it on a full moon, you know, some type of a Wiccan thing. And
why don't you put a cross on it or something like that?
Right. Well, Granny wasn't a bad person. I just think that she was kind of an old, stubborn woman, and she doesn't like me having her good luck charm.
Or she doesn't want to leave.
Well, I think if she wanted to be with me, she would bring me a little bit better luck.
Well, that could be, too. Thanks for the story.
Thank you.
Isn't that something? Let's go east of the Rockies. Welcome to the program. Hi there.
Hello.
Where are you calling from?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
A vacation spot, is it not?
Yep, pretty much.
It is. You got hit by a hurricane, didn't you, once?
Well, we got Charlie this past year.
Charlie.
It was just a Cat 1. It wasn't much of anything. I've been through worse storms where I'm originally from, which is Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, okay. So. What's going on?
Well, I'm actually kind of concerned about some, I guess, military operations that have been going on over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was Tuesday night around 8 o'clock. I work in a restaurant, and the entire building shook. And I talked to my friends after the fact, and I have friends all up and down the beach for about a 20-mile radius up and down this beach. Building shook. People felt the shock.
What do you think it was?
Well, we first heard it was a commuter jet that crashed in our state park. And then we got told, no, it wasn't that. And then we got one of the servers, her father works with the fire department. She called him, and he said, oh, it was just a military jet that went supersonic over land, which they're not supposed to do. But besides that point, we were like, okay, well, that explains that. About 10 minutes later, he calls back and says, well, there was also something else. They found fiery debris in the ocean about a mile, 2 miles out from the state park right after this plane goes supersonic. I know that they blocked off key arteries. We had an old Air Force base here, and they completely blocked off the old Air Force base anywhere getting near the state park, which is right next to the Air Force base.
Oh, no.
All that area was blocked off by, police, fire trucks, ambulances, all that stuff. I know that the Myrtle Beach rescue squad was called into action. They couldn't say why. And I had a friend who was watching the sky that night with a telescope. I think there was a meteor shower or something, and he saw fiery debris fall into the ocean.
Yeah, but I doubt if it would have been a meteor.
Yeah, fiery debris, like actually debris like metal debris, versus a meteor.
Where a meteor would have gone all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Whoosh, and just disintegrated like that. No, this was something else.
This was something else, at least according to what he told me. So I've looked in my paper, like right after it happened. We have internet in my restaurant. We were perusing online, going through all of the traditional media sites. We went to local media. There was a blurb in the paper saying that a plane just went supersonic, but that's it. But there was more to it. Why would all these, emergency people be called into effect if it was just a plane going supersonic?
Well, and I have to tell you, when a military plane crashes, whether it's on maneuvers or not, they will publicize that.
Yeah.
They don't hide those.
The odd thing, too, is it's almost exactly a year ago in Florence, which is about, 30 miles inland from here, there was like 2 or 3, I think, Black Hawk helicopters that crash-landed out in that area almost exactly a year ago.
Now, let me ask you something else. Have there been UFO reports in that area?
A friend of mine said yes, that she saw one once before. I haven't seen any here. This place is a very, buckle of the Bible Belt, hush-hush type old money community for the people who actually live here. So there's a whole lot of closed-mouthness about what people have seen and not seen.
All right, well, if you find out, let us know, huh?
Yeah, I was wondering if you'd had heard anything like that.
Not a word.
There. Okay, it's just really, really, really weird.
You're number one.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate your call. Let's go to the Devil Hotline. Welcome to Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George.
Yes, sir. Hi.
This is John. I'm calling from Austin, Texas.
Well, that's where I'll be, John, in another month for about a day or two doing a program down there.
Well, good. I hope we can get together maybe for lunch or something while you're here.
We'll be doing a little promotion, so you're listening probably on KLBJ, right?
Right.
Right. They'll mention it, I think, in a few weeks.
Okay, great. Anyways, I wanted to tell you about a dream that I had back in '76. I was about 17 years old up in Cleveland, where I grew up. 2 of my friends and I were driving through this place somewhere in the South, and we stopped at this 2-story hotel. And when we got there, there was all kind of weird things going on, and we went into this room, and the devil had come in with 2 women that they looked like Las Vegas showgirls. They had like these feather headdresses on, and just beautiful, tall, beautiful women. And he didn't actually speak to us. It was telepathic communication.
What did he look like?
He was. He didn't have a beard or anything. He was just like a middle-aged man with medium length hair. He had very piercing green eyes, and he was very had like an arrogant air about him, like he just was the greatest thing in the world. You know,
Yeah.
He just looked at us like he knew everything about the three of us, and he knew how we would react to anything, and he basically promised us that for our souls that we could have any woman we wanted for the remainder of our lives. And two of us ran, and one of the guys stayed there. And as we ran, we got down to this like hallway, and there was like a centaur, like a half human, half horse, that was coming after us. And as we got down to the lower level, we got into this thing. It was like a cave. It was like thatched pine, where there was these like demons were controlling these like mutants. That's the only way I can describe them. They're like tortured souls. It seemed like it was part of hell. And they were thatching together with pine this cave, and we were running through this cave, and we couldn't get out of there. It was just it was like an endless chase through there, and we never seen the devil again after that. But after that, I woke up. I was in it was so real. It wasn't like a regular dream. It was like actual soul travel. It was like my spirit was actually communicating with this being, whatever, and being told this. Coincidentally, the guy that stayed ended up being killed in an accident about 5 years later.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah,
that
very strange.
Now, and let me ask you something about him. Did you stay close with him?
With the guy that I left this with, as a matter of fact, he lives here in Austin, and we've stayed close friends. The guy who died in the dream. Did he have 5 years of? Do you think anything he wanted? I mean, did he live well? I don't think he was. We were good friends, and he kind of went down this path that was real crazy, and I think that he did have a lot of things that he wanted, but he stayed in a state that was a lot of drugs and alcohol and that kind of thing.
It got to him, didn't it?
Yeah. When probably about 7 years after the dream, I was working for a moving company, and I was driving through North Carolina, and all of a sudden, I realized that I was in this place that where this dream was, and we would stop and stay in different places, and it was just so scary. That night, we stayed at a hotel that was similar to the one that was in the dream, and late at night, I woke up, and something had a hold of me, grabbed me with real cold hands, like a iron grip on me, and I heard this like hideous laughter, and there was nothing there at all. I was waving my arms around in the dark, and it had a hold of me, lower part of my body, and for 3 days afterwards, I could feel down, the pain, and I had actual bruising where this happened.
It's amazing. I mean, I don't know how people could sleep sometimes with things like that happening. How could you?
I know. It's to this day it scares me, and I can even though this happened that long ago, this has been over 20 years ago. It seems like it was just yesterday, and I can remember all the details of this dream, just like it just happened.
I tell you, it's chilling.
Hey, George, I'm calling from Springfield, Missouri.
Well, welcome. Not too far from St. Louis. Not too far.
Exactly. KWTO, 560 AM.
Good to talk with you. What's going on?
Well, being as that you are from these parts, I was wondering if you might have ever heard of or seen the Spook Light down by Joplin, Missouri.
I've heard of them, talked about them just a little bit. I've never been out there to see them, though.
Okay, well, being that I'm from these parts, I've seen this since I was a kid, and I'm 42 years old. I want to say that the behavior of it has changed tremendously in the last several years, and without getting too elaborate with my description, I can tell you that it's located on a dirt road outside of Joplin. It's about 2.5 miles long. It consists of 5 different hills, which when you start and you turn onto the road, you're at an elevation of 2,700 feet. By the time you get to the end of the road, you've went down about 300 feet, correct?
Right.
So what happens is when you get to the top of these hills, you see this light. And when you're at the certain hills, you see a certain phenomena, and it is not repeated at any other hills, and you always see the certain thing at a certain hill. Well, now, when you get down to the 5th hill, which is way down at the end of the road, and that's always been nothing more than a function of to go back down to and turn around and come back, right, and face the direction again. Okay, you go down to the last hill now, and you come over a wide hill, and you look out, and you look into the sky, because you can see way out up into the sky here. There's a crack in the sky, and there's a big opening, and there's like a craft sitting up there. And it's been there for 2 years now, and I've got this on film. I've taken quite a few people out there, and we've filmed this, and it's incredible. I listen to your show all the time. I hear people talking about UFOs and things crashing here and there, but you can go out to the Spook Light now, and you can see this thing sitting up in the sky. And when you pull up out there on that last hill, you're right outside this people's house, and their dogs start barking, and they run out, and they go, "What are you doing?" And we're looking at that. Can you see that? And they're going, "Yeah," and I just get out of here.
That's incredible. Now, and you have to be in that certain area in order to see the craft?
There is 5 hills. Now, let me tell you something very significant. When you go to the first hill, and do you remember any tales related to you about the Spook Light at all?
Yeah, and these are pretty good-sized hills, aren't they?
Yes, there are. Like I said, it's 2.5 miles long. You're at 2,700 feet. By the time you get done, you went down about 300 or 400 feet. When you go to the first hill, for instance, I've got a very nice Bushnell telescope, and me and my girlfriend happened to one time think, let's go out there and look at this thing through a telescope, because we had been very, attracted to it for a long time. And by the way, I lived 2 miles away from there. It explained why I could always go to this place every night and record what I saw. So, anyways, we go out there and we put the optic piece on this thing at the first hill, and it's incredible. What you see in the round optic piece, you see it half dark, and then you see and this is crazy, but you see a metal-looking object that looks kind of like the Jules Verne Nautilus. At a tilted angle going into the earth, and then it's dark, and then there's 2 windows in that, and sometimes at the bottom of this thing is a small little door that is open. When that door is open, there's a light that moves around inside of that looks like a star. And the only thing I can describe that is it looks like nuclear fission. You've seen the diagram of that where it looks like it's just kind of like fission, and the atoms are breaking and separating and then joining back together.
It could be cold fusion.
You're not supposed to be able to see something like that with your eyes anyways. I'd like to say there's a lot of things to say about this. You can see this craft sitting there all the time at the first hill like that through the optic piece. If you were to look at it with your naked eye at the distance, all you would see is lights that look like they're moving across the road.
Have you noticed any military planes in the area?
Well, let me tell you something. The first time that the government went out there was 1 month after Roswell in 1947, and the Army Corps of Engineers went out there, and they did a survey out there, and they were out there for the summer of 1947, and when they got done, they wrote about a 10-page booklet on it, and they said they had no conclusion. They had tried to simulate the effects of the Spook Light in any way that they could through, explaining it through
natural,
gases and, there's zinc mines around the area in places and stuff like that in the Joplin area, chat tiles and stuff, but they could not duplicate it. And, of course, it's been seen for several hundred years, actually.
Does this craft ever leave or move?
it is always sitting there as still as could be, and you can shine, like I've got a laser light that will shine down a road for like a mile straight, and it absorbs it, and it goes right into it, and it doesn't go out the back of it or anything. Once you go down that hill that you're on, that last hill, of course, if you were to just say, get out your car and start walking on foot, which is what you will do at every one of these hills, as you start to gradually walk down the hill in feet, you will come to a point where you take one more step and you start to lose the vision of what you're looking at, which tells you that all these things are in a straight line.
Do you have a good picture of this thing?
I have very good stuff of this, and I have drawn all this out and through all the repeated times that we have went out there. I had tried to contact some people about this at some point in time several years ago, and I kind of felt like they didn't want to hear what I was telling them.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Some MUFON people and stuff like that from Missouri, and they were taken back by it. I also talked to a guy from NASA who told me that Alan J. Hynek had stirred up a lot of conversation about the spook light in the 60s, and that the Joplin area, the Chamber of Commerce there, actually used it as a tourist attraction.
What did he call it? Swamp gas then? Because that's what he did in Michigan.
I'm not familiar with what Alan J. Hynek's last, what his final thought was on that. I know that his wife was from Kansas City, Missouri, and that they came back to the Midwest once in a while, and one time they actually went down to the spook light themselves, and he came away completely bewildered.
Well, I tell you what you do. If you could get us that photograph, I'd love to be able to post it on the website of the craft. Either get it to Sean at coasttocoastam.com, SHAWN, or Lex at coasttocoastam.com. Get it to us, and we'll take a peek at it. Just some still, that'll be fine. Or if you want to MP, how do they do that, Dan? MP3 at the video? MP3 the video to them, and we'll take a look at that. Thanks. Let's go to our wild card line. Welcome to Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hello. This is Matt from St. Louis.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Here. I'm just fine back here in your old stomping ground.
I'll be back there. I'll be home for Christmas, as they say.
Oh, that's good. I'm calling to let you know, you had the whole thing about the devil. I had an encounter many, many years ago when I was still living in my hometown of Peoria, Illinois, in a graveyard there, a place called Springdale Cemetery, and that's a pretty haunted place. A friend of mine and I went out one day, and it's a beautiful cemetery. It's a park-like cemetery, and we would go out there and just walk along. And it was a beautiful autumn day of 1993.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to one place where there was an old Civil War hero buried, and we became pretty depressed when we got there. And when we got home, I talked to two other friends of mine who had been out there one day earlier, and they told me that they had discovered the remains of an animal sacrifice.
Oh, my.
Not too far from there. And apparently someone had been trying to bring something in from outside. They were opening a doorway to let something in. They were like, dabblers or amateurs,
And that's the worst kind, because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, they had no idea what they were doing, but they did sacrifice a cat, and it had been crucified to a plywood board. And it was pretty disgusting from the way it is.
People ought to be put in jail for that.
Yeah, they should, but there's no way to get, no way to trace it and everything. But we became aware later on that a doorway had been opened here in that cemetery, and now these two friends who discovered the animal sacrifice had some experience in ceremonial matters, ceremonial magic, and so we arranged. I was invited to come along with them. I don't know why I went along with them, because I didn't have too much knowledge in this area, but I went along with them. So there were three of us, and we went out on a night when it was pretty dark, not too shortly after we discovered that this doorway and this entity was trying to get into our world.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back to that same gravesite inside Springdale Cemetery, and it's the gravesite of a colonel from the Civil War, and there's a large obelisk inside a circle, a stone circle. It looks really archaic when you get there. Looks like something out of like a time machine. You've traveled back 1,000,000 years.
Has that portal, Matt, been closed up yet?
Oh, yeah, that's what we went there to do.
I mean, did you do it?
We were successful. It was pretty interesting. If you stood in a certain spot, that was the only place you could see it.
Well, how do you close a portal to some other dimension or level? How'd you do it?
Well, number one, I wasn't the one doing it. I was merely there to aid.
Well, how did they do it?
How did they do it? Number one, you had to convince the entity that was trying to come in to leave. You had to communicate with it on its level to tell it, you know what, you were brought here by a bunch of idiots, and you know where you are? You're in the middle of nowhere in this graveyard, and there's nothing for you to live off of.
Well, I got to tell you, I got to move on. We'll take a few more calls. At least they obviously knew how to close the portal. I wouldn't know how to do that. Not in the least. West of the Rockies, welcome to Coast to Coast. You're on the air. Hi there.
Hello, George.
Yeah, where are you calling from, dear?
I'm calling from Medford, Oregon.
Sure, I've been there.
Yeah, I'm a truck driver. I talked to you a couple of weeks ago, actually. And I was listening to you guys, and you guys were talking about people that encounter repeating sequences of numbers in their lives. And I keep on encountering this 333. Every time I turn around, I pick up trailers that are 333. I wake up from a nap, it's 3:33 in the afternoon. I mean, it's just all the time.
Yeah, I'm 11:11. It's 11:11 everywhere for me.
Really?
Yep.
Well, this is why I called today. It was because today I lost 3 hours and 33 minutes on my clock on the truck.
That's weird. How? Tell me what happened.
It was just gone. I was looking at the clock and it said that it was
let's say it was noon, and then you realize it's 3:33 and you've lost that.
And I looked at the other clock. There's two clocks. I've got one up in the window. It's like above the window. It's in a Freightliner. And then I've got a radio clock. Well, the radio clock was 3 hours and 33 minutes ahead of the clock that was on the window.
Did you lose sequence of time, or did you just lose?
Well, there was just that much time missing off of that one clock today. But this is the weird part. About 2 months ago, I was taking a shower at a truck stop. And when I don't remember going from the shower to the truck, and when I got to the truck, I wrote all this down. Now.
I hope you were dressed in between.
Well, yes, I was. Well, I guess I was, because when I was in the truck, I was completely dressed, and I was just sitting in the truck, and I was like, I looked up at the clock, and I wrote these times down. I looked it up after I heard you guys talking about that sequence of numbers. I wrote it down in a little notebook that I have where I keep up with my loads and stuff, and I wrote down it was 6:48 in the evening when I was sitting in the truck.
So what's happening to this lost time?
But on that occasion, it was 3:15 when I went and took the shower, and I don't remember the 3 hours and 33 minutes in between there.
Yeah, but where's it going? What's going on?
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I might have been abducted or something, and I was thinking maybe you guys might have some of your listeners who had went through the same kind of similar experiences, with 333, because it's so prevalent.
Well, in terms of the numbers, I don't know. But in terms of the lost time, lots of people report that. Matter of fact, it's happened to me. I think, though, in my particular case, your mind kind of hypnotizes itself when you're driving, and you just don't realize that you've gone from point A to point B, and you somehow forget mentally how you got there, but you all of a sudden you wake up and you are there, quite frankly. But weird, I'll tell you. Let's go to our Devil Hotline. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hey, George.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Ray. I'm a truck driver.
Hi, Ray.
I'm going across Ohio right now. I just pulled into the service plaza here. I'd blast the horn, but I'd wake everybody up.
Yeah, we don't want to do that at a couple, 3 o'clock in the morning there, 4 o'clock in the 4:30 almost?
Yeah, almost 4:30 here. Yeah. But about 14 years ago, I was going down the interstate in Alabama, and I jumped off to go across a little 2-lane road. I was very near to Demopolis, Alabama, and I have my headlights on low beam. I was on this 2-lane road, and I saw something leaning against the fence, and I thought, well, that guy sure gets up early in the morning to go to work. And I throwed the headlights up on high beam, and this thing there was no human. I mean, this was the devil. And he was dressed in black. He had one leg on top of the rail fence, like you cock your knee and lay it back across the fence.
Yeah.
And it had a hoof on it, and the one on the ground had a hoof.
Oh, my God. How about horns? Did he have horns?
He had horns. I'll get to those here, too. But he had on his hands, where his hands was hoofs like cows, like a cow foot. He had a tail that came out, and it had looked like the ace of spade on the end of it. The ears was almost like a cat's ears, and they had tufts of hair on them, like sort of like a bobcat would have those tufts of hair up on top of the ears. He had horns almost like a cow's horns. They come out and they had the little curve to them. And when he looked at me, George, he just turned his head and looked right at me, and I was almost dead stopped then. I was so scared.
I don't blame you. Did he have wings?
He didn't have any wings.
Okay.
But when he looked at me, he had the face that just looked like a pig's face. Just like a pig. The blunt nose and everything, just like a pig's face. But the eyes is something I'll remember forever. It just looked like two pieces of coal that were on fire.
And what happened to him?
I don't know. I was so paralyzed or so scared that I just he watched me and I watched him the whole time.
And how did he?
He was still there when I finally went on by.
So you kept going?
I kept going. I almost came to a complete stop. This thing had me so scared.
No, that would not have been smart. I'll tell you. You don't want to stop.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi. Go ahead, hon.
I was just going to call in. I thought about calling the devil on with this story, but started thinking about it, and I don't think it's the actual devil that I see. But it's a interesting story. Starts about when I'm 7 years old. My mom was wanting to move us out of the apartment we lived in, and she bought this older house that friends of her family had owned. Well, I was probably about 7, and my sister was getting her bedroom set up, and she dumped a load of hot laundry on her bed. And I used to love to snuggle up in the towels. So I'm, laying under this big pile of towels taking a nap. And I opened my eyes, and I thought I saw what was my sister. And I got this feeling from it like it was curious, and that's why it was looking at me.
So it's still a little blurry, maybe?
Yeah, it was almost like I could see through it, but I could make out almost like a human face to it.
Yeah.
So I got curious back because I was still little. When I got curious back and started, opened my eyes fully and was looking at it, this feeling of just complete fear washed over me. And I panicked and grabbed the towels and pulled them over my head. Well, when I finally got brave enough to look out, there was nothing there anymore. So I ran down the steps and I told my mother, I said, I saw something weird in my sister's bedroom. At first, she didn't believe me. Well, this is a really long story, so I'm going to fast forward a few more years.
All right, zip.
Fast forward to I'm 13, and my mom had kind of started believing that weird things were going on in the house because at night you could hear cabinet doors.
Took her long enough, didn't it?
Yeah. I think she just didn't want to think that something could be going on.
She's in denial.
Yes. Well, I started seeing, after my sister moved out, because she's 8 years older than me, I inherited that bedroom.
Okay.
So, one of the first nights I'm sleeping in that bedroom, I opened my eyes and looked to the side of my bed, and I can see something like what I had seen years earlier, but I could make out this time that it was distinctly male. And it really scared me. I told a friend about it, and she said, I have a friend, you've never met him before, but he's been having weird things like this happen to him too. Guy comes over to my house, and he said, I've been seeing this thing, and I've drawn some pictures of it. He opens up the folder he brought with him, and it was drawings of the exact same man that I had seen that night standing next to my bed.
That's strange. What did he look like?
I really don't want to go into too much detail about it because...
Tell me why. And I will respect... but tell me why.
It seems like when I start going into a lot of details about it...
Oh, he gets upset.
It's almost like it gives it power.
It goes crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts showing up more frequently.
Don't want that to happen to you. Any idea who it is? Or what it is?
It's tried to communicate with me what it wants me to think it is, and I know it's lying to me.
Has it been friendly, though, to you? I mean, has anything happened?
It's not friendly at all. Friends started telling me I was naive and just making this up in my head, and I got kind of arrogant about it, and I said, well, if you don't believe me, I can make something happen. Two of my girlfriends were sitting on either side of my bed. I put a stack of papers on the table, and I said, okay, watch this. And I started talking like he was right there in the room with me.
And you figured he was.
Started flying off the table across the room.
Girlfriends go crazy on that one?
They were very freaked out by it. One night, I found out that this thing has a penchant for grape Kool-Aid, oddly enough. We were sitting in the bedroom drinking grape Kool-Aid. I set my cup, which was halfway full, on the table, and we sat there and watched the cup empty itself. And it only happened with grape Kool-Aid.
All right, but still, I haven't heard anything bad.
The bad things that this thing does, it still follows me around. Wherever I move, it will follow me.
I haven't. That's not bad.
He likes to... When he comes around, there's an extremely heavy presence that enters the room.
Yeah.
And he'll walk up behind you and touch you.
Does he hurt?
And you start getting a feeling of just nausea or intense fear. You start feeling weak, like you're going to faint.
So even though a lot of things haven't happened to you, you still sense that this thing is evil.
Yes, it has a very malevolent presence.
Have you tried to get rid of it?
Yes. At one point, I had told it, look, go away, leave me alone. I don't know how you even found me. I don't want you around me.
I mean, with professionals. I don't think you can do it on your own.
I don't think it worked since I did it on my own, because he did go away for about 2 years. And then he started to come back. When I moved out of the house and got my own apartment, every now and then I'd get the presence feeling in the apartment, and I would just go outside on the little patio to just get away from it.
All right, I'll tell you what I think you need to do, and I hope you have a computer. Just go to my website. On the left-hand side, it says Show Info. Click on Guests after that opens up, and look for Mary Ann. That's it. She has no last name. She's a Ghostbuster. Email her. She'll get back to you. She'll give you some pointers. She might even come out and try to get rid of this spirit. Somebody needs to do something. You need to get rid of it because it's starting to eat you up. Thanks for the call. Wildcard line, you're up on Coast to Coast. Hi.
Hi, George.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay.
I have kind of a funny little Christmas tidbit after all the intense stories we've had.
All right, good. Lighten it up a little bit for us.
Well, what my wife and I have been playing around with our computer. I actually do some audio engineering on the side, and we recorded the words Santa Claus and then played them backwards, and it said "Sell Christmas."
Sell Christmas?
Sell Christmas.
Hi, George.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Tim calling from Cumberland, Maryland. I'm listening to you on 1270 AM WCBC.
Hi, Tim. What brings you to the program tonight?
Well, I've been trying to get a hold of you on the Devil Hotline since 1 a.m., and I've been pushing flash and redial, and I couldn't do it, so I finally got on in the east of the Rockies.
Good, okay.
I have a tremendously scary devil story for you tonight.
Go for it. I've got some time for you, so it's all yours.
Okay, this happened in 2001. I was laying in my bed, where I'm living at now with my parents, and yeah, you know when you're in that dream, like halfway asleep, halfway awake, but you're kind of in a paralysis state, you can't move.
You can't move, but you're awake and you're not, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was laying in my bed. I didn't know if I was asleep or awake, and I kind of nodded over to the right side of my bed, and I seen this humongous, intensely ugly, scary being. It stood about 7'4". It was very muscular in body shape. It had 2 protruding fangs coming from the bottom jaw. It had horns like a mountain sheep, like a bighorn ram.
Yeah.
And it had yellow eyes and hoofs for feet and a long, what looked like a dragon-like tail, about 4 foot long. This thing was massive. I mean, it was scary, and it reached out at me, and it came towards me, and it was standing about 6 feet away from my bed.
And you couldn't move, right?
And I couldn't move, and it leaned towards me, and with one arm reached towards me all the way across my room. This is how big this thing was. And I kind of finally snapped out of it and sat up and looked over, and it was gone. I was very hot, very sweaty, very scared, so I opened up my window, and my room was like a back porch, kind of enclosed back porch made into a bedroom, so I had a back door on it.
Yeah, okay.
And a set of steps going down to the driveway. So I opened up my window and kind of leaned my head out, and there was the same hideous creature on my steps.
Oh.
And it reached out towards me, and it said in a very demonic, robotic type of voice, saying, "You're coming with me. I'm going to get you." And it reached out and actually grabbed my nightshirt, tore my nightshirt off of my body. And I didn't tell this all to your screener because I didn't really want to go into too much detail. But tore my nightshirt off of my body and grabbed my arm. And, its hand went from my wrist to almost to my elbow. And I had a crucifix. I was a born-again Christian. I just started going back to church, and I reached up and grabbed this wooden cross. It was a crucifix, and it had a pewter Jesus on it.
Did that work?
Well, I kind of took this cross and put it towards this being, which I'm almost positive was the devil. And as soon as I had it right in its face, it looked at me, and it kind of gasped, and it just exploded and dematerialized in like a energy type plasma explosion.
Well, the old saying, thank God you had the cross, to tell you the truth. And I think it was the devil, too. First time caller line, you're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
How's it going?
It's going well, thanks.
Hey, I'm calling from Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm named Cameron.
Go ahead, sir.
I was going to tell you about the time I almost went on a bike ride with the devil. I was about 14 years old, and I was riding in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It's where I live. And I was coming down the road, and I was kind of doing some wheelies and stuff, on his freestyle bike. Well, this guy had pulled right in front of me. He was a kind of a distinguished-looking guy, and everything. And I thought, this is kind of weird. And he said, "Hey, that's a real nice bike you got there." I said, yeah, it's pretty cool. I do some tricks and everything on it. He said, "Well, man, I ride bikes, too." And I happened to look in the back of his car, and I noticed that he had some T-shirts folded, real neat-like. And he said, "Yeah, man, I got my bike in the back of the trunk." And then right there and then, I thought it was kind of weird that this guy was asking me to go bike riding with him when I was thinking there's no way he could have a bike in the back of that trunk of that car. And I said, no, man, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Smart move on your part, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. And so he said he kept on being real persistent about it and started getting sort of angry. Because I kept on saying no because I had to get home.
Yeah.
And then he kind of pointed at me. He said, "Yeah, you're going to be a hard one to get."
Uh-oh.
And he had this real evil. The guy was sort of like I said, a distinguished-looking guy. And I'm thinking, why is this person wanting to go bike riding with this kid, with my age? And so I looked at him, I said, I gotta go. So, man, I took off flying. I've never ridden so fast in my life. Well, I turned about 22 years old down the road. Me and my friend, we go to this palm reading lady, and I just be kind of fun about it, So she goes in there, he's like, "Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that." So, "Well, I'm going to do it." So she looked at my hand, and all of a sudden this lady's face turns like white. And she said, "You've had a run-in with someone very evil in your life." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Has anything bad ever happened?" I said, No, nothing's ever bad happened." And then, and I couldn't understand when she said, "Yeah, it's someone almost like the devil has ran into you before. You had to run in with him." And I said, "No." And then a week or two later, after this, after I had talked to this palm reading lady, we were having a yard sale, and I had kept that old bike. Of course, it didn't have any wheels or anything on it. And I was getting ready to sell it, and then I touched the bike. I was bringing it down, and all of a sudden, I realized what she was talking about.
Exactly. It was him.
Dr. Malachi Martin, ex-Jesuit, former exorcist, and one-time advisor to 3 popes, is currently a best-selling author. As a premier investigator of clandestine politics and unlikely alliances of popes and cardinals, his novels offer rare insights into the men who guide nearly 1 billion people in faith and broker the destinies of countries and continents. As a member of the Vatican Intelligence Network, I didn't know they had one. Under Pope John XXIII, Martin helped extend the church into Iron Curtain countries. In 1964, concerned about the corrupting influences of power, Martin was released from his vows of poverty and obedience after 25 years as a Jesuit. He left Rome for New York, where he did odd jobs until a Guggenheim Fellowship enabled him to write his first bestseller, Hostage to the Devil. It was followed by The Final Conclave, Vatican, 3 popes, and the Cardinal, The Keys of This Blood, The Jesuits, and apparently many others. He's a very prolific author. To give you some idea of how he is reviewed, Forbes magazine said, "No spiritual journey is complete without a Vatican page-turner by Malachi Martin." Sacramento Bee said, "It is to Martin's credit that his real-life fictional cardinals have flesh, blood, and bone, sometimes the heart of a South Chicago ward healer." The Dallas Morning News said, "In biblical times, they would have called him a prophet." Publishers Weekly said, "It is impossible not to be impressed with Martin's profound knowledge of men, issues, and history." I could go on and on and on and on. For 30 years, as a Catholic priest, Dr. Martin did exorcisms. So from New York City, staying up late, here is Dr. Malachi Martin. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Well, good morning there, Art. How are you?
Oh, I am very well, and I am so honored to have you here.
No, I'm really privileged to be talking on this vast network. It is really universal.
It really is universal now. It's amazing.
I heard you describe it from north to south to east to west.
Oh, yes. Covers a lot of territory. I'm not, my background, Doctor, is not Catholicism. I'm not Catholic. My wife is. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to stumble and bumble, and I hope you'll bear with me.
I doubt if you could stumble and bumble in anything. But anyway, we'll take that as a simple statement.
And take this also as a simple statement. Many years ago now, you can tell me how many, yes. The movie The Exorcist came out. Yes. It was the first of its kind, really, major movies, and it scared the hell out of me. Be honest with you. And as no movie, even with all their horrible little monsters, ever has since. And I'm not sure why.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting? I find that very curious. I really do. Even more than any of the Dracula and the Frankenstein films.
Even more than the movies with Alien, where monsters are popping out of people's bellies and all sorts of horrible things.
Yes.
And I think the reason is because I viewed The Exorcist as real.
Yes, I think so. It did touch on a chord, the existence of a demon, which could, on occasion, inhabit the body of some human being. I think that might be the element. It was set also, that particular picture was set in Washington, real lifetime Washington, you know, and you had real live-looking characters undergoing these horrible contortions and distortions. So I suppose it did. The fact is, Art, the fact is that at the back of our consciousness, at least in, I was going to say in the West, but then I know it's the same in India, it's the same in China, it's the same in Japan, and in Latin America. At the back of our consciousness, there's always a fear of the evil one.
Yes. Well, there may be a reason for that. The evil one. Now, let me start there by asking you, is there a difference between possession by the devil and possession by a demon?
Yes, there is. You see, the mythology or the legend or the doctrine or the teaching, whichever you want to regard it as, it holds that there is a major evil spirit called Lucifer. And there is another one called Satan. And they are accompanied by, or they are among, many, many smaller demons. And these do attack and possess human beings in their will and their intellect. That's the general sort of picture you get from books and studies and doctrine and teaching about the devil and about evil. And I think, what I was saying was that I think at the edge of our consciousness there's always the fear that perhaps indeed there is such a thing, if we don't believe it. We Catholics do hold it, and Christians in general do hold it, but there's a consciousness, there's some evil spirit at work, it could be, in our world, and we're afraid of it. And that it can, according to the belief in many parts of the world and in many parts of history of man, there is the possibility of being possessed, of one's body being dominated by such an evil spirit and used for nefarious ends.
Doctor, is the devil a fallen angel? Is that correct?
That's the idea. They are all fallen angels. The idea is that once upon a time, 1/3 of the angels of God revolted against him and were condemned to hell and became demons.
What was the purpose of that rebellion, Doctor?
The purpose of the rebellion was simply the ambition of one spirit, Lucifer, the son of the dawn, that's what his name means, the light bearer or the son of the dawn, who said, I will not serve, I will be equal to God. And he was opposed by one spirit who said, who is like unto God? And that's the name of Michael, Mikael, who is like unto God. Mm-hmm. And there was supposedly this huge battle between the spirits, and the demons lost. And Michael and those fighting for God won. And forever the fallen angels, those who rebelled, are condemned to hell and condemned to be evil and to promote evil amongst human beings.
How do we, human beings, fit into the picture? It's almost as though the war is over human beings.
Yes, it is over human beings. The teaching is that once upon a time God envisaged the world inhabited by men and women and served by angels. But when Lucifer and Satan and the other demons, then angels, were asked to collaborate and cooperate and serve human beings, especially one particular human being who would be God, namely Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, they said, no, we are angels, we are superior to these material beings. We haven't got their limitations, and we don't die, and we haven't got material bodies, we are pure spirits. They were destined originally to serve human beings, and they refused.
Doctor, when did you how old were you when you became a priest?
I was 33.
33.
33, and that was in 1954.
When did you first encounter, as a young priest, how did you encounter anybody who was possessed? I know you have done, how many exorcisms have you done?
I've done thousands of minor exorcisms and about a couple of hundred major ones. Major ones in duration and in intensity are difficult, very difficult, and they're far fewer than the thousands of exorcisms you do every year. Exorcisms against various ailments like, for instance, persecution, complex, where you're really being obsessed by a devil or a demon, or alcoholism, or as the human ills, the list is enormous. Now, I first of all came across it in Cairo. That was the first time that I assisted at an exorcism.
Cairo, Egypt.
Cairo, Egypt. I was there. I originally started off as an archaeologist, and I was an expert in handwriting, ancient handwriting, about the time of Abraham. That's about 1700 BC. That's about, 3,000-something years ago.
Yes, sir.
And I was roped in one evening because an exorcism which was taking place in the poorer quarter of Cairo, the assistant to the exorcist, there's always an exorcist and an assistant, the assistant had fallen ill, and I was asked to substitute. And that was my first experience.
It is my understanding. Again, I'm operating from total ignorance here, other than the movies that I've seen. And
yes.
It may be all wrong. But my understanding is the Catholic Church does not lightly undertake to do an exorcism.
No.
How does it decide?
It decides this way. All right, so somebody comes to the church authorities and saying, look, my uncle, my brother, my wife, my sister, whatever it is, they are showing very funny signs. And there's usually in every good, well-run diocese, there's an exorcist, that is a priest appointed by the local bishop to deal with this. So the first thing you do is examine them, get them examined by a doctor, and find out, are they physically sound?
Certainly.
You see, there are ailments like La Tourette syndrome, or Huntington's chorea, or a simple tumor on the brain, which produces phenomena, produces events in a person's life that look very like possession, but are not. So you must first of all satisfy yourself that there's nothing physical, no physical basis. Then one or two expert psychiatrists, usually people who don't believe in God, by the way, because they're skeptical, must tackle you and find out, are you just plain loony, or is there something they don't understand? And
sure.
They come back with a report saying, well, the pattern is normal, we can't explain it. Then the church authorities generally say, okay, let's try exorcism. And in the first 20 minutes, believe you me, in the first 20 minutes, everybody at an exorcism ceremony knows whether it's genuine or not. It's quite clear.
In the longest or the hardest exorcisms, how long typically might it go on?
It can go on for the classic one in the United States was about 2.5 years long.
2.5 years?
2.5 years, yeah. It's been written up very recently by a simple reporter who simply chronicled the entire thing. But I've assisted at ones which went on for, 17 weeks. Sometimes it's only a week, sometimes it's only hours. It depends. It depends on the tenacity of the demon in possession. It depends on the antecedents of the person. It depends on so many factors you just can't predict. You go into it blind in that sense.
You said, you said demons. So the majority of possessions are by demons.
That's right, they are. All true possession is by demons. Now, see, there's a distinction between possession and obsession. Obsession is where somebody is being bothered continually by, for instance, cases I have in hand at the present moment are people who are bothered continually by appearances of animals with human faces bothering them, or pressures on them at night when they want to go to sleep.
Yes.
And funny faces and funny things happening to them. And you finally, when you rationalize it all and had the person examined physically and mentally, you come to the conclusion there are objective events taking place, and they are being bothered and obsessed by a demon, and then you set about chasing that demon away.
Of those that have gone past the medical doctor and the psychiatrists, what percentage would you say turn out to be actual cases of possession?
My experience would say about 80%.
80%.
80%.
Then I would also ask, you said examined by 2 psychiatrists who do not necessarily believe in God.
That's right. Generally, I've always tried to use the services and the skills of psychiatrists who will tell you I'm an atheist. You know, I really don't believe practically in God.
Really?
So, well, they're not influenced, therefore, by any prejudice.
So then there is a good use for even the atheists.
There is. Although I must tell you that I've only found 1 or 2 psychiatrists who wanted to assist at an exorcism, and generally, one of them I wrote about, Dr. Hammond. He simply gave up all psychiatry.
He did. My question was going to be, how many people who thought they were possessed were diagnosed, in your opinion, incorrectly by psychiatrists who might tend to, because of their own prejudice, want to claim this apparent malady as their own territory? So how many never made it to you because they were incorrectly diagnosed?
A very great number, especially when we come down to a thing called MPDs. It's an abbreviation used by psychiatrists for multiple personality disorders. That is, you know, say, let's take the name Hilda, and Hilda says that she becomes Mary in certain occasions, then she becomes Joan on other occasions, and she becomes Geraldine on third occasion, you know, multiple personality disorder. And for a long time, MPDs were simply analyzed as MPDs. And then, under certain circumstances, they began to find out that it was much more than that. It was a case of demonic possession. And that has to be very carefully distinguished, because you can make a dreadful mistake and think a true MPD is possessed, or vice versa, that a person really possessed is an MPD.
Well, then I would ask, I guess, can a person be possessed by more than one entity?
Oh, yes, and the same demon can possess 3 people at the same time.
Oh, my.
It all depends. The variation is tremendous. And nobody, you see, Art, this is a very dirty, unhealthy, inhuman, insalubrious, wicked, and unnatural process and event, and nobody should touch it with a barge pole except somebody trained, and even then to be very careful, because it's highly dangerous. For instance, if you start any nonsense, real exorcism, and a lot of people don't know the difference between that and therapy, the difference between that and prayer, healing prayer, deliverance prayer as they call it.
Good.
Into everything. Fascinated.
Doctor, is there now, or is there going to be, an Antichrist?
Whether there is now is a question. There is going to be an Antichrist, and I think the best thing we can do is talk about his public appearance.
All right.
Because he may already be in existence. For me to say he is in existence would immediately provoke the questions, where is he and what is he doing?
Yes.
And I want to avoid that.
Yes.
But he will be manifest publicly within a reasonable amount of time. Most people who are 20-something or 30-something will come across Antichrist in their life. I'm 76. I may not.
How will we know him?
We will know him by 2 main qualities. First of all, he will arrive at a time when we as a race have what looks like insuperable problems. Supposing we discover we have really insuperable environmental problems.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Supposing we find we have insuperable health problem, a disease,
yes,
wasting nation after nation. That's the first thing. He will have solutions for those problems. He will have wise solutions that are real solutions. And number 2, the result of his intervention and the results of his solutions will be such that people will say, you must be God. And he will accept that attribute.
He will accept that.
Yes, he will accept that. Those are the 3 marks of the Antichrist.
You've already done it to me. You're already giving me chills. I've been a talk show host, Doctor, for about, in this incarnation, 13 years.
That's a long time.
Doing this program. And in the last several years, Doctor, I have begun to observe something that I just picked a word and I began to call it the quickening. And
it's a very good word, Art.
Yeah,
it's a very discerning word. You must speak from experience.
I speak from watching the news of what man is doing by the day,
yes.
Doctor. And by this quickening, I mean socially. I'm watching these horrible things happening. Yesterday is just an example. In Sacramento, a man was holed up and killed his 2 children in front of his wife, and then in front of his wife killed himself. This kind of senseless, mindless, unbelievable behavior socially.
And it's not isolated. My God.
I know it's not isolated. Politically, Doctor, I look around and I see no sense to what is going on. We have lost our way.
We have lost our way. There's no doubt about that. Could I stick in something at this moment, Art? Could I make a remark?
You may indeed.
There is, in Scripture and in tradition, and by the way, I'm a Roman Catholic, so I'm not sort of dependent on the Bible as Protestants are, and that's their choice. But there is a thing called the mystery of iniquity, and it's a very constant teaching of the Bible and of religious men and women, and it's this, that evil is allowed from time to time to so dull the senses of men and women and to so disturb the equilibrium of their minds that they do crazy, real crazy, mad, bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the point that gives me a chill. I'm 76, and I noticed that in the last 20, 25 years of my life, the incidents of such disequilibrium, the incidents of that seem to be much more frequent than when I was younger.
Yes.
Much more, there are much more shocking things happen, and it's not that we're getting to know them. No. The world was connected at that time. Communications were slower when I was young, say when I was 25, or when I was 20. But everything, all the news got around. But we never heard such a plethora of shocking, unbelievably violent, unnatural happenings to ordinary people. So the mystery of iniquity it seems to be pressuring, and the idea in the teaching about the mystery of iniquity is that there is a darkness, a mental darkness that closes in and makes ordinary people do the most extraordinary and shocking things.
Well, that's one part of it, a horrible, scary part of it, but also you mentioned the environment.
Yeah.
I've been monitoring stories lately, Doctor, about the ozone, about deformed frogs, which are said to be an indicator species. I have had people on from various disciplines that you may not agree with who call themselves remote viewers, to prophets, to Native Americans, and frankly, they all tell a very similar story with regard to what they think is immediately in front of us in the next few years.
I happen to agree with them. I happen to have gone further in my thought than merely agreeing with them. I think there is a case of radiation. I think that we are being radiated in such a way that it distorts the chemical balance of our system, our mental system. And that slowly but surely, a vast section of the public is being dulled, doesn't see what's happening.
Yes.
Doesn't realize what is being done to them.
These slowly boiling frog.
That's right. I mean, the frogs there was one example of a frog reported here in all our papers in North America, of a frog with one eye in its head and the other in its mouth.
Yes, I know.
The distortion, the complete ruination of nature.
I'm afraid I can tell you more, Father, from the north-central part of the United States, across to Vermont, to Montreal, even in Japan now.
Yes.
Deformed frogs with 4 to 6 legs, as you pointed out, eyes in throats, missing eyes, and I could go on and on. Horrible deformities. Something's happening.
Well, and then, by the way, we should also add things we are not told in public. the deformed babies that are born in a section of Europe which is also covered by the Chernobyl explosion, but also simply happening, deformations of adults as well as children, and they're not reported widely.
Doctor, a report from London, an abnormal amount of deformed fetuses in Britain. Britain is experiencing more radiation, ultraviolet radiation, as a result of depletion of the ozone right now than are we.
Sure. Then, by the way, there's a thing because we're touching a sacred cow when we touch on it, and that's nuclear energy.
Yes, sir.
I'm firmly convinced from the evidence, and the evidence by reputable scientists, these are not crackpots. They're men who have engaged in Nobel Prize activities in chemistry and in physiology and economics, and they can point out the effect of radiation on the human frame, especially on those parts of the brain that deal with moral and ethical judgment. And it's a bit frightening because it means that the rise in criminality, the distinct rise in criminality, recidivism, constant crime and doing, and horrible crimes with no reason at all but simply cruelty, is some deformation of nature in itself. And I'm afraid it's on the increase, not on the decrease.
Is it reasonable to ask you, when a human being is possessed by a demon, what is the purpose of the possession of an individual?
The destruction of that individual's soul to such a point that it must end up in hell. Hell being a place, a location, an existence which is totally separate from God. The belief is that everybody was created to be happy forever, and God wants everybody to enjoy heaven, the joys of heaven, the perpetuity of heaven, the peace of heaven, and the ecstasy of heaven. The demons, excluded from that and barred from it because of their rebellion, want to make sure that as many human beings as possible don't attain it. And that is done by possession, and possession is a funny thing. It's a funny operation. It never starts suddenly. You don't wake up in the morning and say, gee whiz, I'm possessed. You know, it doesn't happen like that. It's like any addiction. It's like anything that happens slowly. It's bit by bit. Bit by bit, I cede control of my will and my intellect to a demon. And one day, the possession is complete.
Is this a fight, Doctor, between an individual's will and that of the demon?
Well, usually, to be more accurate, it's a fight between the will of the exorcist and the will of the demon.
I guess I meant before you or somebody like yourself has met up with this possessed individual, as the process of takeover is underway, is it a fight between the person's... Yes,
it is, between the person's will and the demon intending to possess. Usually the tendency or the attempt to possess is through deception. For instance, we have, in the northeast corner of America, since 1975, we've had a huge increase in the following type of possession. A young man, say 30-something, 40-something, a young woman, will come and say, look, when I was in college, when I was studying, when I took up residence as a doctor or a lawyer, whatever it was, I made a pact with the devil. I needed money. I needed a position. And I asked him to help me, and he did, but he took over my will and my mind. Now I want to get rid of it. How do I get rid of it? We have an increase in that phenomenon, which I never thought we had. Some of them don't even believe in God. Some of them are Jewish, some of them are Buddhist, some of them are Christian. Some of them are Protestants or Catholics. There's no profile of the possessible person.
Once you have issued such an invitation, is there any way to go back?
If it has been taken up, then your only recourse is exorcism that we know of. There may be other recourses. We don't know of any recourse except that.
Are there cases in which a possession is not, I would imagine there are many, where the spirit has simply won and is in firm control? I would think that the people who come to you are those who are sort of in the middle of a giant battle.
That's right. When you find some, you know, the typical things of somebody throwing themselves on the ground or cursing and spitting and protesting and defecating, urinating and all sorts of protest. What they're doing is protesting, saying, help me.
Yes.
Help me. The perfectly possessed, we call them, the perfectly possessed, are those that are completely at peace. And I've known several of the perfectly possessed, and I avoid them like the pest. And you know them only by almost accidental means. Sometimes they're perfectly normal, by the way, and they've got great business property. They're married, they have children and wives, and they put down responsible jobs. There's nothing wrong there. Now and again, just now and again, it's as it were, a veil is drawn aside, and you see somebody you don't know at all. You just don't know this person, this man, this woman. And there's a completely alien look, a completely alien attitude, and they breathe alienation. And you know then, if you have a nose for it, you know then that they're perfectly possessed and there's nothing to be done about it. The first man I knew like that was called Beedham, John Beedham. And it was a frightening experience because I had known him for years.
In other words, their pact, their deal, they are at peace with and comfortable with their deal.
That's right. And they have passed through the usual Satanist rituals, too. The three Satanist rituals, the power of inflicting pain, the power of hating, the power of burning fire. Fire is part of the Satanist and the Luciferian development. And they've passed through all those with flying colors.
Doctor, I want to circle back for a second.
Sure.
You scared me quite well. You said, and this was going to be a major question for you this morning. I talked to you about the quickening.
Yes.
I didn't even get to all the facets. To me, it's many, many things. But you said there was a huge increase in the number of possessions, and I was going to ask you that. To me, that just adds to the pile. That is true. There's more now?
It's about, since 1975, when I really started in earnest exorcisms in the United States, it's about 800% increase in frequency.
Oh, my.
Frequency. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And one part of the phenomenon is this, Art, that now, for the first time, exorcists and psychiatrists are working closely together. And I work with psychiatrists. I do the spiritual side of it, and they do the psychiatric end of it. There's always a psychiatric preparation and follow-up after an exorcism.
You mentioned that one psychiatrist simply gave up psychiatry.
That's right. I gave him a code name of Hammond. That's not his real name. But he was very, very skeptical about it all. And finally I said, okay, doctor, look, if you insist, but you must have some protection. He wasn't a Catholic, by the way. But he was a very honest, sincere man. I didn't mean but. He was. And once he went through it, that was it. He would never touch another possessed person. He would never touch psychiatry ever again. He went off and did something else. He was a qualified doctor and became an only MD.
Doctor, how frequently do you think psychiatrists who are treating patients, or what percentage of their patients might indeed, instead of suffering psychiatric problems, be suffering some form of possession?
Well over 50% of the cases I have observed.
Wow.
Well over 50% are really possessed by demons, and of course nothing can be done about it. They're diagnosed as schizophrenic, or as MPDs, or as whatever, and there's no succor for them. There is no succor or help for them at all.
When you have done your job,
yes,
and it's all over, and the demon leaves,
yes,
where does that demon go?
Well, let me gently but firmly sort of put in a corrective there, Art, from the point of view of an expert. The demon has been deprived of a place, a location, a human person, in which to exercise power. Therefore, they're confined to where they originally were, which is a hell, which is hell. They go back merely to suffering, because their suffering is intense and perpetual and non-stop. They have had a chance of exercising power outside of their tortures, and indeed, the evil they inflict is a way of their getting their own back in some way or other, even though it doesn't relieve their pain.
So they are punished for their failure.
That's right. They're punished. And that's why in the Gospels, for instance, you have this the evil spirit saying to Jesus, "No, don't send us back to hell. Send us into these pigs." Do you remember the swine of Gerasene?
Yes.
And they rushed over the precipice into the water and drowned themselves. They could possess something. There's a sort of relief, a temporary relief, in not being condemned purely and simply to suffer in hell. And therefore they want something to inhabit. And Christ himself said that, and St. Paul says, and St. Peter, and lots of things in the New Testament say that the devil goes around seeking whom he may devour, like a lion, whom he may possess. And I must tell you that the enormous increase, about 800% over what it used to be in our small area, because it's only a small area we do, the northeast corner.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a huge increase. And here's one more thing to say, Art, which may sort of provoke a whole string of questions. Possession of the real diabolic kind is generational.
Generational.
Aha. It's generational.
Passed on.
It's passed on by training. And it's a dreadful thing when somebody comes in who are perfectly respectable, good, normal American families, and they have reared their children to be Satanists and to accept possession, and they would, unless they stopped themselves, pass it on to their children. And it's been going on for well over 200 years.
Talking about the fact that it apparently is generational, Doctor, generational possession.
Yes. It's. Let me explain that. It's not that possession is passed on with semen, passed on with genes. No. It's that the same demon inhabits the members of the same family for generations, consensually. He is nourished by them and kept by them and satisfied with them. The children are trained in it, and they perpetuate it in their children. It has gone on for generations. It's generational. And sometimes unwillingly, we have cases in hand, for instance, of daughters to whom their mother attached her familiar, her evil spirit, and then we have the job of ridding them of that. And it takes time, and it's painful and anguishing.
How does a person know? Does a person know? I mean, is in the mind or the soul of the possessed?
Yes.
Is there always knowledge of that possession?
There is, but it can be limited knowledge. It can also be inhibited knowledge. Some of them can't even tell you about it. Some of them can. It depends on the particular type of demon. There are many types of demons. Some of them are quite intelligent. Some of them are very stupid. Most of them are specialized in one thing and one thing only, and that's all they can do. And it's a reflection of some gift as angels which they had, now distorted as demons. And in these matters, as in everything connected with it, go to the experts. Don't try and do it yourself.
Yes.
And then do not. There's a big confusion, Art, which we should clear up for everybody, and it's this. There are many healers and deliverance experts, and many people will undergo lengthy prayers and incensings and various ceremonies. But the truth is this, the horrible truth is this, that if there is a demon in your life, and he dictates your behavior at least in one province of life, one area of life, he can only be expelled by direct confrontation, by somebody with authority to expel him. So when I say him, of course, spirits have no sex. They're not male or female. I just use him in the generic sense of the English word. But it's the confrontation. It's not a prayer. Gee whiz, if it was a prayer, it'd be very simple to get rid of them.
I had a call a couple of weeks ago from a woman who said that she had been in bed, believe this, with her children one night, and she was attacked, Doctor, attacked by some sort of demon or spirit that was actually waiting upon her, actually trying to sodomize and and rape her, and she was unable to speak, unable to move, unable to utter anything. And in the middle of this attack, the phone rang, the answering machine came on, somebody's voice began speaking, and whatever it was, left. Now, she said that the only way this thing would leave, and she had been attacked many times, was if she audibleized some sort of something, and she said, I sat there and I prayed and I asked God to cast off whatever this was, and it would not go. And my question was, and I pondered after the call, it was a very serious, very scary call, and I pondered afterwards, if God hears our prayers, those cast silently forward, then why would God not hear a silent plea, a scream, as it were? Why must something like this be audibleized?
There are mysteries about this entire situation to which we have no answer. But there are laws. He has set up laws governing the existence of man and woman, and one of them is that audibilizing something does make a difference. And it can be as simple as this, that the attention that a demon requires of the possessed person, or the person they're going to violate, can be, that possession can be distracted. Their will can be diverted, their mind can be diverted from being, as it were, hypnotized, being held by some audible voice message from another normal human being. And God knows what grace of God that voice brings with them. But that it does happen, that audibilization does have an influence, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
And there's no specific answer as to
no specific answer. And Art, there's the biggest problem is, who is possessible? And people are always asking me, am I liable to be possessed? And we have tried to create a profile of the possessible person, but we have found that neither sex, nor education, nor color, nor race, nor education, nor riches, nor poverty, nothing makes a difference. It's apparently, to our mind, it's random. A random choice. I know very naughty people who are not a bit possessed. They're just very naughty men and women. And then I know people who are not naughty at all, but lapse in one thing, and they do undergo possession.
Knowing the nature of humans, if somebody has made, in effect, a pact with the devil, is it not more likely that those cases of possession would more frequently than not be the rich, the powerful, those who have attained great material success or wealth?
You would think so, Art, but de facto, no.
No.
Poor people, people with very little social resonance, people occupying very obscure positions in the social ladder. Everybody is susceptible to some ambition, something they want, either for revenge or for self-satisfaction or for self-advancement, and everybody is liable.
The pact could be something as simple as the wanting or the wishing of a mate or the attention of somebody of the opposite sex, or
that's right, to get married.
To get
this man, to get this woman.
Yes.
You see, for instance, if I could do this now, I want to take the following example, but with great care. Do you remember Susan Smith?
Yes.
Drowned her 2 children?
Of course.
Now, for an exorcist, the pattern is very clear. The children were in her way.
Yes.
Of her ambition, whatever that ambition was. It concerned a young man.
Yes, it did.
And an exorcist could say about that, it was obvious that they were used as obstacles, they were used by Satan to possess her will and make her commit the grievous sin of matricide. Because she was convicted of that anyway, so I'm not accusing her of anything that she's not convicted of.
Of course not.
But that would be read by an exorcist as a typical example of possession of the will of somebody to commit a very evil act just for the sake of doing evil, because that's the whole point of the demon, to do evil for the sake of evil.
Should somebody like you have consulted with Susan Smith?
Well, if I was asked to, generally we people, we're very chary about intervening at all. And there's enough work on our plate to keep it going. But yes.
Can somebody, doctor, of any faith be possessed?
Yes, of any faith. Doesn't matter. Of no faith at all.
Would a Catholic priest perform an exorcism on a non-Catholic?
Yes, he would, and we do. We do. Now, it's much more difficult because you can't call on their faith. Except faith, they generally emerge from an exorcism, a successful exorcism, with a tremendous faith in God. Not necessarily Catholic faith, but faith in God.
Speaking for the layman, there are many people walking around listening right now who are no doubt scared to death because at one time or another in their life, they have probably, in a moment of despair or a moment of need, said, I'd make a pact with the devil if I could just have so-and-so. And they're probably thinking at this moment, there's a pretty good chance they may be possessed.
You can't be possessed without knowing it. And you can't be possessed against your will. You may wish all day and all night for the devil to come and sign a pact with you, as it were, a Faustian principle, like Mephistopheles in the play of Goethe. But it can't happen without your knowing it and without you willing it fully, finally fully, bit by bit by bit, so that you needn't be afraid that you're possessed and you don't know it. No, that doesn't happen.
Well, are there not, though, no doubt, many people who have achieved success or achieved that goal for which they made that dark wish, that moment, and they certainly must wonder.
No, they know.
They know.
They know. They know. They know full well. And that's the darkest secret of their life.
The dark, indeed.
That sets them apart from wife or husband or lover or mistress or brother or sister.
And you say you have seen these people. You know these people when you see them.
Oh, yes, you do. You meet them in the street. You meet them in cocktail parties. You meet them at dinner parties. You meet them at meetings and conventions. And, of course, I must tell you that I get out of their way. I have enough of it. I don't want to confront them. I don't want to have anything to do with them, unless I have to professionally.
Doctor, Catholic priests, how many Catholic priests are capable of or do within the church exorcisms?
Nowadays, Art, unfortunately, a minimum. As you know, in the last 25 or 30 years, belief in the devil, belief in evil incarnate, in an evil spirit, belief in hell, belief in the demons, the existence, and the activity, say, of Lucifer and of Satan. They're distinct demons, by the way. People often confuse them, but they're distinct demons. Belief in that has flagged, has got very weak. And the result is that when we started doing a lot of exorcisms here in the northeast corner of America in the 1970s, we finally had to go to Rome and ask permission because the local bishops, some of them didn't believe. So we went to Rome and said, look, these people, we need authority because, by the way, nobody can do an exorcism without being given authority. And it must be a bishop gives authority. So we had to go and get special permission from Rome to do it because we couldn't get it here. Now, some bishops do believe, some bishops don't believe, some priests do believe, some priests don't believe. Most of them want to have nothing to do with it. They know little and they want to know less. That really, and some bishops, some cardinals we know, say, look, don't bother me. You have all the authority you want, but don't tell me a thing about it. I don't want to have anything to do with it at
Possibly
all.
The source of the hear no evil, see no evil.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Because if you have to take into account that so-and-so, this political leader, this particular borough leader, this particular CEO is possessed, it does complicate life, Art. It does complicate life. If a big surgeon, a big psychiatrist, is by way of demonically possessed, it makes a huge difference.
Can a person of faith be possessed?
Can any person of faith be possessed?
Can a person of great faith be possessed?
No. Without their renouncing. The time comes when you're asked to make a change. You You can't be possessed against your will, and if your will is strong in your faith, you can't be possessed. You can be obsessed. You can be bothered. You can be harassed.
Yes.
And harassed terribly. And the major portion of cases that occupy my daily dealing with this are cases of obsession and harassment, and it's terribly distressing.
What about the demographics of possession? We saw The Exorcist. Can a child be possessed?
No, except unless in exceptional cases you have children born and quickly developing at the age of 4, 5, with a will as strong as a person of 25, really.
Mm-hmm.
And they can undergo possession, but it's rare. It's very rare. They can be harassed and obsessed, and that usually generationally on account of the parents, on account of an aunt, on account of an uncle.
How does the parent actively teach this child in the dark ways?
Oh yes, they assign the child to their demon. They're satisfied with that. The demon becomes what they call a familiar of theirs, and they give it a name. They call it Philip, they call it George, they call it John, they call it James, they call it Mary, whatever. And they assign the child to it. They teach the child to do obeisance to it, and they make the child participate in ceremonies, Satanist ceremonies.
Wow. There's a lot of that going on in America today?
A lot. It's very hard to say a lot. That it goes on continually and sustainedly in certain areas, yes. And whether it's Boston or whether it's Montana or California or New Mexico, the place doesn't matter. The place doesn't matter. I must confess to you that there is a lot of very impressive generational cases are found or have been found, not all, but a lot of such cases have been found amongst old American families.
The old traditional...
Yeah. The old
originally came over on the Mayflower kind of American families?
That sort of business, yes. That sort of business, yes. It's a murky story and has never been written up properly, mainly because, well, it concerns family genealogies, you know, and it's hard to write that up and get it published, and then what's the point? But you come across generational possession and harassment, but possession too, in such families, such old families.
What was your first exorcism, and what was your reaction to it?
Well, my first exorcism was in Cairo, Egypt, and I was a young priest, and I was an archaeologist. I was lying on my belly or my back in caves on the Sinai Peninsula, copying inscriptions dating from about the time of Abraham, about 1600 or 1700 BC. That's about, 3,000 years ago, more than 3,000 years ago.
Long time ago, yes.
And an exorcism was going on, and I didn't know it. When I came back down by plane and checked into Cairo, because I came down every couple of weeks to get a bath and to eat properly.
Yes.
Because we lived on goat's cheese and black coffee when we were up digging. One of the priests was telling me that he was engaged in an exorcism and his assistant has collapsed, which is not uncommon with young assistants, because in your first exorcism, if you've never done it before, the impact is so great, sometimes you become totally incontinent. It scares you.
To the point where you can't move and can't speak and can't help.
And everything, all the portals are loosened. You have diarrhea, you vomit, because it's so repellent. It's so shocking.
So it's not for the weak of heart?
No, it's not. And I'll describe in a moment exactly what is the repellent part about it.
All right.
But so I was asked to assist, so I did, and apparently I had a very strong constitution, still have, and I hadn't got that effect. It had a disgusting effect. It always has. That was the first time. It was a very sticky exorcism. In general, if you want to understand what an exorcism is like, and what's really the essence, the difficulty, the horror of it is this. you must imagine, say, a common scene. It's a room. It's always within a room, within a house. It's in a room. There's nothing on the walls, no nails, no pictures, nothing that can move. If the windows are there, they're barred with shutters. You don't have glass around the place that can be shattered.
All of this is prepared.
All this is prepared. And you have the person in question is either violent or not. Most times not violent to begin with. Mm-hmm. And there's either a bed, an iron bed, or a chair, or whatever. You have no table, but you have an exorcist with an assistant, and he has assistants there. The assistant is a priest, and then he has several other people, usually men, dressed in clothes that can take a lot of hardware, and they carry everything in their hands. They have to have a candle, and they have to have holy water, and they have to have the priest's a prayer book, etc. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the point. I said before that people undergo a psychiatric examination, undergo a medical examination, and finally people say, okay, let's try exorcism. Mm-hmm. And I said that within the first 20 minutes, you know if it's a real case of possession, and then you're into it, and you can't withdraw. You can't simply say, okay, boys, let's break up and see each other next Monday. You can't do that. Once you started, you've got to finish it.
Or else what? Why?
Or else you are pursued by that demon.
You are pursued. The exorcist.
That's right. And everybody in that room has troubles. And the troubles can be extraordinary. I mean, I've seen assistants trying to hold somebody down and dropping the person and looking at each other because the possessed person starts telling one man what the other man did to his wife.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yes. Yes. We've been through that, too. And sometimes it's a lie, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's an exaggeration. Anyway, but after the first 20 minutes, what happens? In that 20 minutes, the following happens. Now, the temperature of the room may change. There may be a horrible smell. There may not be a horrible smell. All those are incidental things. The olfactory experience or the heat and the cold experience. But here's the real point. At a certain moment, if it's really an exorcism, and if we are in the presence of a possessing spirit or a threatening spirit, demon, everybody in the room, the priest and his assistant and the assistants, they know, and I can only call on some experiences of people listening to me, and you yourself, Art, you know there's something in the room that wants you dead, but dead. I mean, I've only been twice in my life threatened with real death, but really threatened. Once was in Czechoslovakia, and once was in America. And it's a horrible feeling knowing that unless something happens, you are going to die. Now!
Yes.
And that's it's like an invisible animal with claws, and it wants you dead. It really wants your life's blood. It wants you extinguished.
Has it happened, Doctor? Has an assistant or an exorcist or anybody present at an exorcism ever been killed?
Well, no, but they have died of heart attack. They've died of some form of internal health attack. None of them have been killed, exactly, except in one case. I wasn't present at it. There was a case in America where the person was flung out a window and defenestrated and killed 8 stories down.
Well, out a window or a heart attack, it's dead.
It's dead. But the point is that the experience is everybody in the room suddenly knows. You don't even look at each other, you know. Especially if you've done exorcism before with the same team. You know, this is it. We're now in that presence. And the point is this. Here's the point I want to drive home. It's a confrontation. It's not a series of prayers, of pious wishes, and of deliverance and healing invocations. No. This is a confrontation between the exorcist's will and the possessing demon or the harassing demon. And thereby, then, there comes the conversation. Because the exorcist has to find out the name, what the demon calls himself. If we want to speak about himself, it's not himself or herself, as we all know. But anyway, what their name is, And the name is usually a reflection of their function, what their function is as an evil spirit. And you have to get them to admit that. There are certain rules. You never answer a question put to you by the possessed person. You always fling a question back at them.
How do you know when you are speaking with that demon?
It is impossible not to know it once the person starts talking. It is impossible not to know. You know. Everybody in the room knows. And it's not a change of voice. Sometimes the voice is a big change in the voice. Sometimes it's a small change. But there's something, the manifestation of the spirit, when it's cornered by an authorized exorcist, is palpably clear, like the nose in your face. Everybody knows. And there's no deception about it. And it has this bone-chilling effect.
So it's like a war.
It's a war. It's a war.
Once it begins.
It's a real confrontation. And this is where people make a mistake about treating with evil spirits. If they think or suspect or know that they're being bothered, they attempt to take it on themselves, and you can't do it. You have no authority.
Well, I was going to say, this is one of those don't try it at home things. In other words,
that's right.
You don't sit by a bed and attempt yourself, not knowing what you're doing, to say a nice little prayer that this spirit will leave the body.
You can do that if you want to, and it's okay to do it, and it does relieve the pressure and the tension, blah, 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 but it does not. It does not dispossess a possessing spirit. It does not. For that, you need authority. And this is the difficulty that Buddhists and Jews and non-Catholics sometimes come to us and say, we've been trying exorcism and it doesn't work. And one would laugh if it weren't so pathetic at times. Because they must have it's only the authority of Christ can get rid of them, can get rid of the spirit. And that's what takes place there. And then that can be long or short. It can be a long game of cat and mouse, trying to trap the demon, trying to get it to concede, and then it lapses into complete silence or violence.
Doctor, we hear of successes at the end. The story usually ends well. Are there failures? Are there times
There are failures where it's total failure. And that is calamitous, because then that means the person goes ahead possessed. It means that the exorcist has sacrificed something for nothing. Because let me explain something to you, Art, which is very hard to explain, but there are parallels, analogies in life that helps. When you do exorcism, you give something which you can't get back. It's like, for instance, any parent who has reared children will tell you, oh, I gave them so much love.
Yes.
And they're not talking about money or food, but they're thinking about what they gave of themselves. You give of yourself in love and affection and devotion and planning, etc., etc. And you can't get it back. And no parent wants it back, really. Similarly, with an exorcism, the exorcist gives, a little part of him dies, put it like that, and goes away and waits for him in heaven.
Little slice of death.
Yes, a little slice. And, for instance, after a bad exorcism, I mean a long, unhealthy one, you don't eat very much for a couple of weeks, and you don't sleep very deeply either. You can't. You can't. You've been locked in combat with a very, very insalubrious, unhealthy, anti-human, hating spirit that has communicated with you.
For those not of faith, are there, during the course of exorcisms, actual physical manifestations in or near the person or around the person or in the room, as in the movie? Do things ever move? Do you actually...
Oh, yes, things move. If there's anything movable in the room, it's going to move. If there are nails on the wall, if there are pictures, if there are windows that can be broken, they'll probably be broken. If there's something which is weak, unbreakable, it can break. It can move. So you want to have a very bare situation completely. And even then, the exorcist is not free once it's all over. I've been flung out of bed. I've been knocked off stools and broken my shoulder by the demon to get his own back, just to remind me he was there and to make me pay a price for the damage I did.
This is like going to war. It's very much like going to war.
It is a war. most people don't realize is that there's a spiritual war on, and as St. Paul says, it's a war with the spirits. It's a war with the forces of evil, the invisible forces that want men's souls.
Are there times as a priest where even the very best of men, Doctor, sometimes fear war reasonably? Does a priest sometimes fear entering this war when you know you are about to meet up once again with the worst?
Yes, there's always that fear. And a very old exorcist gave me advice years ago in Ireland. I mentioned this to him, and he said, "Okay, but listen, learn to measure your love of God by the amount of fear in your heart," which is a very profound statement.
It is, yes.
Because it depends on how much you love God. And if you really love Him as Father, as Savior, and as final end of everything, and as the beautifier, and as the creator of nature, the creator of all beauty in our lives, it can expel fear. But if you nourish fear, fear can grow and not quantitatively, but it can equal or surpass the amount of love you have in your heart. And then you're in danger, because that fear is going to make you despair. That fear is going to make you timorous. That fear is going to make you vulnerable. Love is the only protection we have.
You mentioned there were priests who do not believe that people are possessed.
That's right. That's right.
Do they carry that belief because of fear, do you think, for the most part, or?
No, the cases I have known are priests whose faith has been diminished. See, faith is not a quantum, like a bank balance or something in your pocket or clothes you wear. It's a dimension of soul. And that dimension can be great or less, greater or lesser. And it can be diminished by infidelities, by sin, by fecklessness, by carelessness. It can be increased by virtue. It can be increased by good actions. It can be increased by the grace of God. But it's usually because of the lack of faith. Faith. When they think that there's no such thing as evil, really. That it's okay, do what you like, just don't frighten the horses. That's the idea. But there are iron laws, though. God has laws, and He doesn't allow them to violate it. You can violate them, but you're going to pay the price. And one of the prices is that you slowly but surely edge towards that region of human existence where the demons are dominant. And they will satisfy you, they'll give you a good life, but you end up, they're a prisoner. They're a prisoner.
Is there ever a case where the person who is possessed dies in the course of the exorcism?
Yes, it has happened. And it's caused untold trouble because there's usually a lawsuit. But that's why we are very careful as regards the medical condition of the persons that we exorcise.
What has been, you say there's a lawsuit.
Well, I mean, the husband or the wife or the boy or the friend or the son or the daughter sue the priest.
Sue the priest?
Yeah. For having put their relative through an experience that caused them to have a heart attack, caused them to have a coronary, whatever. It has happened.
What would happen, Doctor, to the soul of the person who would die under such circumstances?
Under those circumstances, we must say we don't know. There's always the chance. You know the old story between the bridge and the water? This man was pursued by his enemies and living in sin, and he tried to jump over a bridge and swim into the water, but they shot him.
Yes.
But before his body hit the water, he had repented. There's always this. You never know. You just never know. I just wouldn't like to be in that position myself.
Has that happened to you?
Yes, it has happened to me. It has happened to me, and it's very distressing. And then I've been asked to go to see people who are possessed by their husband or their wife or their brother or their sister and come away empty-handed. They simply told me to go to hell. Literally.
Literally?
Literally.
Well, that would be one pretty good sign, wouldn't it? I mean, it's just not something you do to tell a priest to go to hell.
It's very discouraging. Very discouraging, and they do it with great hate. Great hate.
Well, as I say, wouldn't that be a very clear sign?
It is. It is, Art.
And so if you are told to go to hell, to get out of here, I don't want anything to do with you, which I can imagine more than not you might be told, then what do you do?
Well, you go away and you pray. But, you see, for instance, if I go into the greengrocer and I find the milk he's supplying me is rotten, and I say, listen, this milk smells highly, he can say, listen, buddy, get the hell out of here. That's one way. That merely means stop bothering me. But if somebody tells you in the way that it does happen now and again to an exorcist, please go to hell. Because that's where I'm going. I want to be with the prince. Now I'm quoting a certain case to you. Then it chills your bones. Because you know you're up against somebody perfectly possessed who just is waiting to die and go home to his master.
Have you ever wondered, Doctor, about your own heart, about your own constitution going into one of these?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And my heart specialist has always warned me that there's a danger there. And I know there is. There is. But, you see, when you're over 70, you know, the amount of good you can do in this world is limited because you're no longer 20, 25, 30. And therefore, whatever good you can do, you do if you're wise. Because one day soon I'm going to take the high jump.
As we all shall.
As we all shall.
So, even today, if you encountered it, you would still do it?
Oh, yes, I would. Oh, yes, I would. Because the commiseration, the human compassion, and the pity that the Holy Spirit puts in your heart impels you, because they are miserable, and they make appeals to you, unless they're completely possessed.
He just described in great detail what exorcisms are like. Doctor, are you there? How you've held up through great exorcisms. How are you holding up this morning?
Very well indeed. I mean, this has been an exhilarating experience, Art.
All right, I have a lady who would like to speak to you. She sent me a fax, Doctor, and I called her. She sent me the following.
Yes.
Art, please help me. If I'm not possessed, then I'm being harassed, tormented, used, abused, sodomized, all of it. I believe my mother promised me to her evil spirit. My family is an old American family. I converted to Judaism 30 years ago, and she sounded so much like somebody you described that I thought I would bring her on the air for a moment. Her name is Eva. Eva, are you there?
Yes.
You're on.
My name is Eva.
Eva, all right, Eva. I'm sorry, you're on the air with Dr. Martin.
How do you do, Dr. Martin?
Good morning, Eva. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Yes, thank you.
Good. If you are in that condition, if you think you fulfill all those conditions in your life, you should apply to the local bishop, the bishop of the diocese in which you live. I don't know what that diocese is, and I don't need to know.
San Francisco diocese.
San Francisco, oh, yeah. Well, there may be a difficulty there because a lot of the clergy in San Francisco have given up any belief in the existence of evil, above all in the existence of evil spirits, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if the Archbishop of San Francisco is among those.
Yes.
I do not know, Eva. I don't work. I love San Francisco. I've been there several times in my life. I'd love to live there.
Don't bother. I don't choose to be here.
I know. I know. Well, that's what happens with most of us. Our place of living is imposed on us. But in any case, you have to apply to the local bishop for an exorcist.
Now, you say that a person who is truly possessed is aware of it and has made a deal.
Well, put it like this, yes. With conditions and restrictions, that's true of anybody who's possessed, partially possessed.
Is it a straightforward deal?
What's that?
Is it a straightforward deal?
No, it's never straightforward.
Never straightforward.
No, it's never straightforward. You're always at the heel of the hunt in the matter. But you think it's straightforward, but it isn't.
Oh, no. What I mean is what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes.
In a way, speaking with you is a dream come true.
Uh-huh.
And it's also a bit of...
Thank you very much for saying that.
A bit of a nightmare.
I know, Eva. Well, apart from anything else, I promise you that when I say Mass this morning, which I shall after this broadcast, I'll give you a first intention in that Mass.
There was a time when I would have just laughed at that, but
I know.
I have tremendous respect for it now.
You've acquired wisdom.
My concern is for my grown married children.
Oh, boy.
And my grandchildren. I'm afraid to people that I become attached to or involved with, and that does include my family.
Yes.
Bad things happen, and I'm really afraid to be around people. I'm thinking of a few deaths in particular, and
I know.
Stuff happens.
Eva, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, and my heart goes out to you. It really does.
What can she do, Doctor?
She must find a good priest.
Doctor, I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
One other time, I was listening to a talk radio program, and a woman was on who all you had to do was call up and say your name and your age or something, and she would sense these stuff about you. And I called.
Yes.
And I gave my name and my age and so on. And she said, there's a very strong presence of a man who's been with you for about 10 years, and you really need to do something about that.
And was it accurate?
Yeah.
It was accurate.
Yes, and I didn't follow it up. It's really taken me close to a year to be comfortable with actually saying that.
I know. Eva, I would be chary, if I were you, of any freelancer in this whole matter.
No,
it's terribly serious. You see, there's no doubt about it. A demon can have information about one without any reference to God at all, without any reference to our safety.
I've already learned that.
Yeah, they can know things. You need to be under the protection of God.
Mm-hmm.
And you need the authority of Christ to get rid of any harassing or obsessing angel in your life, because you don't sound as if you're possessed, but you do sound harassed.
Yes, sir.
And obsessed.
Yes, sir.
And that's the commonest form of demonic activity today.
Now, explain this to me. I, at one time, was even fairly unfriendly about the Catholic Church, but there's been so much movement now that you'd have to decide to... There are so many factions.
Yes, of course.
Which is good, to my point of view.
Yes.
You say, give myself up to the authority of Christ.
Yes. Through an exorcist.
That doesn't mean to accept Christ as a savior. It just means to acknowledge the authority that Christ would have in this matter.
That's right. Eva, but I must be frank with you. Once you admit Christ as having authority in this matter, and once you benefit by that authority, you'll find that he lives in your heart.
Doctor, during the course of an exorcism, what things or messages do you typically hear from a demon? In that process, in that war, in that confrontation, what do you hear?
You hear, if you lay yourself open to it, you hear reproaches about your life, your past life and your present life. If there's anything to be reproached, he'll throw it at you like mud. Then you also hear, if you allow it to continue, an exorcist must control everything. You hear a lot about what it could be like if we weren't bothered about details like religion. You hear a lot of deceptive suggestions and of peacefulness, and let everybody think and do what they want to do. the message. Then in the extreme cases, you get total blasphemy.
They go after you. They try to challenge your faith.
Of course, and it's very subtle. And you mustn't be shook by that. You mustn't be shaken by that. You must be able to deal with it and never answer a question, never take up something shoved at you. Always be in control.
Priest is also a man with faults, with guilt, with all the things, perhaps fewer than the rest of us, but things that can be thrown into his face to make him weak.
That's right, they can. They can shame him, and they can weaken him. And for that reason, he needs to be virtuous. He needs not to have sin on his soul. He needs to have cleansed his soul in confession. He needs to be clean. If he's not clean, the demon will know it.
Is it possible, as in that movie, The Exorcist, that the demon can move from the possessed to the exorcist?
Yes. Yes. That's the danger. That's the danger. You can't have any truck with this unless you're in control.
Do you remember doing exorcisms in which you weakened?
Yes, I do. When I was momentarily shaken, yes, by the shocking things said to me about God, about the angels, about heaven, about human beings, about human love above all, and the contempt, and the despisement, and the ridicule that human love is accorded by the demon when he really talks is something frightening. It's something frightening. And you realize then that all human love is useless unless it mirrors the love of God.
So human love by itself is insufficient.
It's insufficient. It can be ridiculed and mocked and imitated and reproduced falsely. When it is an echo of divine love, then it's divine.
Speaking of false things, Doctor, is it possible or probable that a person taking drugs is more susceptible to the possibility of possession?
Yes. In fact, there's a twist to that I'd like to give to it. You can, through exorcism, be rid of a drug habit. Because in many cases, not all, I'm sure, but in many cases, the lapse into a drug habit, the adoption of a drug habit, is the result of satanic influence, demonic activity.
What
you can get rid of it.
What if you were to give out sort of a general piece of advice to people who are wondering about possession, what signs do you look for? If
in your life there is some imperative coming out of left field, not of your choice, but commanding you, urging you to do something, to yield, to be controlled, and know that can herald demonic activity. For instance, let me explain something to you. We heard a lot for a long time, we still hear a lot about transcendental meditation, and the essence of it was that you made your mind blank.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And you channeled. The difficulty, Art, is this. If you do that, you are sitting duck. You open the door and say, come in. And the same thing with the Ouija board. And the same thing with many channeling activities.
It is not necessarily the board itself, that's just cardboard, but
right.
When you use it in that manner, you're issuing an invitation.
That's right, and you're saying, the door is open, please come in, whoever you are. You can't do that with impunity. You can't do that with impunity. And many a case we're dealing with today started with a simple thing as the Ouija board, used as a plaything. But it got serious.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are spiritual seances of the same kind. Channeling. Waiting for the spirits to talk. Oh, they talk.
Doctor, we talked about earlier the quickening. You talked about an increase in possession or exorcisms of 800%. 800%. In how many? In what In what span of time have we seen this increase?
Since about 1969 to 1989. In that time. It's a funny thing. A lot of things have happened in that time in the world and in the Church of Rome, my church, about which I've just written that book, Windswept House. And a lot of it is negative. There's a lot of negativity. And there's been a lot of bloodshed in that time, by the way. And there's been a lot of environmental damage. And surely Lucifer, who wants the death of the human race, will use any means, especially radiation, to destroy human hopes and human life.
Doctor, in your second set of tapes concerning the storm and inside the Vatican, you had pointed out that we are going to be chastised. This is from a gentleman in Beaumont, Texas. That we're going to be chastised. You said it can't be mitigated. There will be catastrophes, calamities, natural disasters. Great sections of humanity will be leveled. This is part of the third secret of Fatima in 1917, July 13th. But you implied this would be more in the distant future than in the deserted vineyard. You said very clearly this will occur, you believe, in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yes. Yes. The time seems to be foreshortened as regards to what they call the chastisements, these punishments that are going to come upon us, and they indeed are starting in a remote fashion. But I expect them. One can always be wrong. In spite of my reputation, I'm not a prophet art, but I expect them between now and 2000. But not definitive, not the end of the world, not the coming of Antichrist, not the final judgment, not the rapture.
A great change. A great change, however.
A very great change. And, the old song, Keep Your Eyes on the Skies. I would keep my eyes on the skies from the beginning of this winter until the end of spring 97. Because depending on what happens in that time, we will more or less have a prognosis for what's going to happen between now and 2000.
How many human beings do you think will make it through this change?
A good majority of the present human beings that are alive, but in great misery.
In a world where perhaps you don't want to live, that sort of thing.
That's right.
Have you had occasion where you have exorcised a spirit or a ghost or whatever it is from a house, from a structure?
In a house, yes. Going from room to room and expelling the demon. It must be done. I'll be doing that in December in Washington, D.C.
You are in your 70s. Again, I ask you, concern about yourself. Does there not come a time when physically you should refrain from doing this?
Yes, and I have refrained to a large extent. It's nothing like the febrile activity of my 40s and 50s and 60s. No, I haven't. Then I've had open heart surgery and 2 heart attacks. So, simply the nature of things has imposed a certain restraint on me.
Were either one of these heart attacks associated with exorcisms?
One of them was.
One of them was?
Yes, the bad one. But that's the price you pay. And art, we're only here for a short time.
It is true.